afternoon. Welcome to the November 14th session of the committee meetings. Our first committee is Parks and Recreation, and Michael Lillquist is the chair.
Please forgive me while I turn in the packet. We do have, I believe, a couple items. The item number is 21427. It is an item to rename Franklin Park to Harriet Spinell Park. By the way, joining me on the committee for Parks and Recreation are council members Barker and Murphy. Can we turn the volume down a bit? It's kind of echoey again. Harriet Spinell, as many of you know, passed away earlier this year, and she was an active member of the Bellingham community, including representing the 40th District in the state legislature for many years. She was also one of the proponents for converting the old Franklin School site into a park. Both the Seaholm Neighborhood Board and the York Neighborhood Association both passed motions for the name change and have brought forward a request to the city. Per city policy PAR 010001 naming of parks, the Parks and Rec Advisory Board is charged with making recommendations for park names to the City Council for final approval, and pursuant to that, the Parks and Rec Advisory Board did indeed pass a motion recommending a name change on August 10th of this year. That sounds like a really good summary. Thanks for writing that. Director Bryson, is there any more you'd like to add?
No, this is something that Tim Hostetler called me about shortly after Harriet Spinell passed away. As you pointed out, both neighborhood associations or boards approved it. I also received a letter just this morning from the York Neighborhood Association confirming their support of the name change, and they followed the policy, and we recommend moving forward.
Okay, thank you. Committee members, Roxanne?
You know, Harriet Spinell was a divine inspiration to me as a female leader and as somebody who stepped up so bravely for our community and throughout our state. So I would be honored to move that we rename Franklin Park to Harriet Spinell Park.
Thank you. Have a motion? Other council members?
Just a
well,
quick
first
note.
of all, let me recognize April. Sorry, Jean. April.
Oh, so we had a great presentation at the Parks Board meeting. I wish we almost could have it again because it was very, for somebody that kind of came into politics a little bit later, it was wonderful to hear a lot more of what Harriet did and where she started with that park. And I'm hoping that there was talk of maybe even having a little information that people could access, whether it be on the computer or whenever they look up the park, but to really understand what that legacy is. So, yeah, I thought that was really informational and inspirational, I think is a good word.
Dr. Bryson, Director Bryson, is there, what kind of information, doctor, might as well be a doctor tonight, what kind of information goes with the renaming of the park? Is there some biography of Harriet that we put somewhere?
There was a suggestion. So at the park board meeting, someone who had been very close to Harriet and had lived in the York neighborhood, Harriet had lived in the York neighborhood near Franklin Elementary School. Her kids went to school there. And when the district decided to close the school, she's one of the people who tried to keep it open. Failing that, she tried to keep the school as a community center. Failing that, she was successful in keeping it as a park. So that's the discussion that came out at the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, and there was a recommendation that we try and capture some of that information about there was a school here, this was Franklin Park, Harriet Spinell's efforts in maintaining it as a park or turning it into a park, and putting that on some kind of an interpretive sign. And so we will change the main sign to Harriet Spinell Park and hopefully eventually be able to put in an interpretive sign, maybe with some photographs of the old school, maybe a photograph of Harriet, and talk about that history. And the neighborhood is actually offered to help raise some of that money.
Great.
So
I should mention, by the way, that there is a budgeted cost for approximately $500 to change the main sign if we approve this. Jean, you had your hand up?
Yeah, this is one of many honors I'm sure we'll come across all around. Harriet touched so many people. This is a fitting tribute to her, as she did so much work for everybody. And if she was here today, I could just see the look on her face, because you know how Harriet was. She was never one to be in the limelight, always in the back doing the good work. So this is a great start.
Pinky?
I just wanted to add and thank you to Seaholm and to the York Neighborhood Associations for actually bringing this forward and asking for this, and obviously for the Spinell family for accepting this honor for Harriet. And it's a nice reminder and a thank you for all the wonderful things she did for us.
Right. I agree too. I think it's a great idea, and thank you. And Mayor, you've been very patient.
Well, I never mind listening to good things about Harriet. Harriet went into the Senate the year that I went into the House and the legislature, and while we weren't in the same legislative district, we both represented Bellingham. And if there was anyone I could say was my mentor in the legislature, it was Harriet. And for all of you community activists who wonder if there's anything you can really do, Harriet started out as a community activist, and Franklin Park is just one of the things that she actually accomplished. To have her name on it, I agree with Jean. She'd almost be embarrassed because she did not like to be the center of attention. When they say there's workhorses and show horses in the legislature, Harriet taught me that being a workhorse was more important than being a show horse, and she was able to accomplish so many things. All of them did not necessarily have her name on them, but she was a very strong person, a woman of principle, and I was very honored to call her my friend.
Any further discussion? Okay, community members, all those in favor of embarrassing and honoring Harriet Spinell, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, I'll bring that forward with a positive recommendation tonight. That's the end of the Parks and Rec Committee.
Okay, we'll take a quick little break here.